So there's a new report that GPU prices that finally are starting to come down, not just here, but all around the globe, are actually poised to go right back up. And can Chinese RAM companies save us from the global RAM catastrophe? Welcome back to PC Builder. I'm Jason. We're going to answer all these questions and more in our May 2026 Q&A, including Amazon Prime Day is coming up. Should you be looking to buy a graphics card right now, especially with prices maybe going right up, or should you be waiting till Black Friday? And we'll answer all your common PC building questions, including what are the top PC building mistakes to avoid for Amazon Prime Day. If you get value out of this video, please give it a like, of course subscribe for more cool PC content. Let's jump into it. This video is sponsored by Seasonic. For PC enthusiasts looking for ultimate performance, Seasonic's flagship Prime TX 1300 delivers. ATX 3.1 and PCIe 5.1 compatible with 1300 watts powering even the most insane PC builds. The Prime TX 1300 now comes with an updated 12-volt 2x6 cables for increased safety and reliability with RTX 50 series GPUs. And Seasonic's digital fan control means the PSU stays cool and quiet under load. And Seasonic's going to be at Computex 2026. If you were looking for no compromises performance in power, thermals, and noise, check out Seasonic Prime TX 1300 using the link in the video description. All right, Lesson Liz wants to know, what about GPU prices and RAM prices? What's going on with those? Saw some reporting that GPU prices are set to increase due to component costs, and RAM is set to go down because China's going to flood the market. Are either of those actually true? Well, kind of yes, possibly no. Let's jump into this. Let's start off with GPU prices. Now, the GPU article that you're referring to is this one here. This is Igor's lab. There's a lot of really kind of data-driven stuff, which includes the financing and everything else like that, the marketing costs of what it costs to manufacture a GPU. And he found that, yeah, he's expecting prices to go up by 200 euros over the current price of the 9070 XT. And he does a very deep dive. So we're not going to go through all that. I'll leave the link down in the description if you want to go kind of blow by blow with him. This PC Gamer article is actually a pretty good summary of it. If you're just looking for kind of like to take it off the top, essentially what they're saying is because RAM prices have continued to go up, the VRAM costs are driving a lot, but other costs are driving these GPUs to go up as well because AI data centers are eating not just the RAM, but they're eating storage, they're eating PCB production, they're like literally eating everything out there, right? And so these GPUs have to get more expensive. But the reason that they haven't gotten more expensive, and the reason that we're seeing stuff like this, where the 9060 XT 16 gigabyte drops basically below MSRP in Japan, and then we see the 9070 XT here drop to right around MSRP in the UK. And recently we've seen these in the US as well. We've seen cards basically drop all the way back to almost MSRP on the AMD side. I want to emphasize, on the AMD Radeon side for the 9070 and 9070 XT, we've not seen that for the 9060 XT 16 gigabyte. We've definitely not seen it with any of the NVIDIA GPUs, though some of the GPU prices like the RTX 5080 have been coming down. We did go through this in our best GPUs to buy for May. You can check that. I'll leave a link down in the video description. But what Igor is essentially saying here is that the reason these prices will come up is because right now what you're seeing are cards that were manufactured when prices were cheaper. That card stock is still the big backlog out there. And because demand for PCs has crashed due to high RAM and high SSD prices, the GPUs haven't sold through. So you still have some of that existing inventory out there that needs to sell through basically. Hasn't sold through just yet, but there's a wave of replacement stuff that will cost more to manufacture and more to ultimately sell behind it. So what we're seeing right now is a temporary lull in prices. He's saying the prices are going to go up. Now, the question here is, do you believe that GPU prices are actually going to go up? It's really hard to say. I'm still of the mind that the AI data center boom is in big trouble. We've seen massive AI data center issues right now. We'll talk about all that a little bit later in the video, but I think that what we're seeing right now cannot go on forever because AI is not making any money. It's basically being financed through a pyramid or a Ponzi scheme of new investor money go in, it gets burned. The subscriptions that you're getting charged right now for like OpenAI or Claude Code or anything like that, you're paying $30 a month, but you're burning $1,500 to $5,000 worth of compute. that can't continue, right? If I started baking cakes and this cake cost me $30 to make and I started selling it for 50 cents, yeah, I mean, they'd fly off the shelf, right? But how long could I do that for? Well, I can only do it if somebody's going to finance that, put in all this investor money, but then how are those people going to get paid? So there's a whole big hole right now. We can talk more about the AI bubble. The good news is on the RAM side, it does look like China is kind of stepping up right now to basically create huge amounts of manufacturing capability for DRAM. Now, a lot of that is going to go to the HBM RAM that they need for the AI data centers because China is building AI data centers as well, but it's also going to be manufactured for consumer needs right now. And there's a whole article on this that just came out recently where an ex-boss of Samsung basically said, hey, China's gearing up to massively produce DDR5 in a way that we have not seen ever pretty much. And he predicted that it would ease the RAM crisis or potentially get rid of it by the middle of 2027. Obviously, it takes a while to build these factories up. This is not just you're manufacturing a car or something like this. These are high-level, high-tech factories that make this stuff. So it's not something you just like snap your fingers and build. I mean, all the AI hyperscalers are finding that out about AI data centers right now, when data centers that they announced 2-3 years ago aren't even in the beginning of the construction phase. But here's the good news on the RAM prices. Corsair is already, now this is a leak and a rumor basically, so I just want to flag it as that. But basically, Corsair Vengeance RAM has already been spotted in the wild with memory from CXMT, that is a Chinese memory manufacturer. And there's a lot of validation of this memory that's going on right now. And that's a good thing. Because what's the problem with the RAM prices right now is you have a cartel that 3 companies control most of the RAM manufacturing on planet Earth. Really, if you look at this chart, Samsung's the purple here, or the bluish, 36%. Then we've got SK Hynix, 32%. And then we've got Micron, 23%. Now, this does change from quarter to quarter. This is based on total revenue. This is not just total production. I don't think there's a chart for that. But you can see everybody else is like 6%, basically. And that goes back years. Problem is, these 3 right here, they are not manufacturing enough RAM right now. Now, they've expanded production a little bit, but they're basically doing this in a way that maximizes their profit. They're not trying to maximize supply out there. And given the lack of supply right now, that's what's really crushing everything in the consumer. But it is good to see some potential more competition from China, and that could break the RAM crisis. Misho Ivanov wants to know, buy a 5070 Ti right now or should they wait? And Nelson wants to know, when will we see MSRP or close to MSRP prices again in graphics cards? They've been shocked at how I've been right in terms of should they buy now or should they wait in 24 and 2025. Well, thank you. I appreciate you pointing that out. I'm not always right about these things. However, in the last couple of years, I've been pretty spot on because it seems like every time somebody says you should be waiting for something, they already have like 16 graphics cards sitting behind them, and you're the person who doesn't have one right now, and they're telling you to wait for $10. My threshold, by the way, for people to wait is a significant savings, not $10 or $15. If you don't need it right now, then maybe you can sit around and wait for it. But remember, these GPUs, they depreciate based on when the next generation is going to come out. You don't want to buy a 5090 the day before the 6090 comes out, right? This just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So we take a look at some of the deals that we've been seeing before Prime Day, because obviously Prime Day is coming very, very soon. We'll have a whole video on that one. In terms of the 5070, so let's start there, because I know you asked about the 5070 Ti. About $609 is about the cheapest we've seen, and that's for a pretty high-end one, the Gigabyte Gaming OC. Now, these are deals that we post on our channel all the time. You can check out our post tab for the current deals that we're posting. 5070 I just posted. Comes with a free game. That basically, because of it's $69 on Steam, so I'm not making it up. It's basically less than MSRP right now for an RTX 5070, 12 gigabyte. Now, remember that number, 12 gigabyte, because that's part of the reason it's less than MSRP. If you take a look at the 5070 Ti that you were hoping for, $899 is as cheap as it's gotten in a while. $909 is the cheapest one, although it is, again, for the Gigabyte Gaming OC, with a massive discount over at Newegg, and you do get that First Light 007 game with it, a $70 value. So you take the $70 value away, it's $829. So it's basically what, like, $70, $80 over its MSRP. I think that's about as good as you're going to get. Now, will you find a better deal on Prime Day? Possibly. Are they going to get better towards Black Friday? I'm not 100% sure, especially with that Igor's Lab article that we just went through, but we have seen recent deals like this, $629 for a 9070 XT. See the gap between the 5070 Ti and the 9070 XT? That's crazy. And frankly, this is not an MSRP model. This is the OC model of it. So this is a model you typically spend $30 to $50 more for. So basically this one was an MSRP. Now this sold out very, very quickly, this flash sale. Sometimes they test these sales ahead of Prime Day or ahead of big sales like that. So fingers crossed we could see some with sales on like a 9070 XT or 9070. Right now, the best price I can find, $670, had been $699 mostly. Now you can get like free PSUs and other kind of goodies with some of these GPUs. Right now, $669 for the Power Color Reaper, which is an MSRP model, by the way. So this one is about $70 over its usual price. But as we just went through, VRAM prices are up. So it's only up $70. That's not terrible. So overall, if you're thinking, should you buy now or should you wait? I would probably go ahead and wait at least till Prime Day. At least till Prime Day. Unless you saw something like this, you're like, how much money am I really going to save here? You know, it's possible you'll get this deal instead, right? $629 for the Gigabyte Gaming OC one, which is a better model than the Power Color Reaper one. I mean, maybe you want the Reaper because this is also a kind of a small form factor card. They're both really, really good, but you're really only saving about $50 to $70 there. I do think there is some danger that prices are going to go up on us. So my recommendation is, especially if you want stuff like the game bundle, if you want this game bundle is going to expire before we get to Prime Day. That's a $70 price reduction. Now you might be, I hate this game, I don't want to play it. If that's your attitude, absolutely, you should wait. But if you're like, hey, Jason, that does seem like a fun game that I might buy anyway, I would probably go ahead and pick this up. If you want a 5070 Ti, it's not a card I'm recommending right now, but I certainly understand people like, oh no, Jason, I only buy NVIDIA cards. Okay, I'm here to help everybody, regardless of whatever's going on for you. So if that's kind of where you're at with things, I would pick something up like this. I do think the 5070 is actually a pretty good value right now with 12 gigabytes of VRAM. It's around its MSRP, if not slightly under, with a game bundle like that. Will we see it without the game bundle? Often you can get bigger discounts with the game bundle. Again, you have to like the game, obviously, than you can with they're just going to give you in terms of dollar amount, because they're not paying $70 for the Steam license. They're probably paying half that or maybe a fraction of that. But that's the value that you're getting because you would have to spend $70 on this game. So just something to think about right now if you want to go ahead and buy a GPU. All right, eFoodBar wants to know, what are some of the common mistakes that people make when purchasing their PC parts that bottlenecks their systems? I mean, I think the first one's obvious. The first one is the CPU-GPU combo, right? People, for the end of time, have been told that they need a really powerful gaming CPU, otherwise they're going to lose FPS. But I will tell you this, get a good GPU. If you get the biggest, fastest GPU that you can afford, then just get a CPU to balance it that's not going to overly bottleneck it. Now, those words are very important. I'm not telling you to buy a $50 garbage Athlon CPU from a decade ago. I'm saying get a CPU that won't overly bottleneck your GPU. So for instance, if you've got a 9060 XT, I think Ryzen 5500, a 5600, an AM4 CPU is likely fine for that. If you have a 5600, it's likely fine for even a 9070 in a lot of games out there. It's only if you want to turn it all the way down to 1080p and crush the settings down to the most basic stuff to try and pump out hundreds of FPS in a lot of these competitive shooters that you really need to think about your CPU. And I know a lot of people think, oh, that's what I want to do. Well, do you have a monitor that can display that? Like there's other things that go into that as well. If you're playing on a 1080p 180 hertz monitor, 144 hertz monitor, then why are you trying to get 300 or 400 frames anyway? So there are just things that people don't think all the way through when they're thinking about their own personal setup. Remember, there's a difference between what we test in a lab and what's going to be good for your personal setup. And that's why I know there's been a big debate around like how CPUs get tested. I don't want to get into all that. I think the way CPUs tested are absolutely fine. Would I love to see 1440p data alongside the 1080p data? Of course I would. Why not? I always want to see more data. Do I think it's necessary? Not really. I think 1080p is good data on it, but oftentimes it will overstate for your particular setup for what you're looking to do. It will overstate the importance of that CPU. And so I'm urging you right now, get the biggest, fastest GPU you can. The second thing that people often just make a mistake on is misunderstanding their overall budget and where each component fits into that overall budget. We've seen in our Boost My Build series, like for $1,000 or $1,500, somebody spent $300 to $400 on a PC case. The Lee & Lee O11 was basically the destroyer of PC budgets because it was a $200 case, right? With no fans. So you go out and then you buy super expensive Lee & Lee fans and you spend $400 or $500 on this PC case on a $1,500 build budget. And you're like, you just sunk 1/3 of your budget into your PC case. Now listen, if that gives you the joy that you're looking for, then mission accomplished, absolutely. But I think most people, if you ask them, how important is aesthetics versus performance, they would rank performance pretty high up there. So I'm just saying, you could probably have done that with a lesser PC case, with a cheaper PC case, and invested some of that money back into other areas. Another area people often make massive mistakes on is their SSD. Like, check out our best SSD for gaming. And we have been continuously sold that what you need is faster, 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 faster. All the components need to go faster. But do they need to go faster? Like, for instance, SSDs aren't really the bottleneck for anything PC gaming related. Anything PC gaming related. So why do I need a faster, more expensive SSD, especially in a market where they cost 3 times as much per terabyte as they did last year? So why am I going to spend $250 on a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD? It's PCIe Gen 5 instead of $150. Why am I going to spend almost double when I get no additional performance out of it? People are like, I don't know, I just need the best. Otherwise, I might, they don't even know what they have to do. They don't even know what the FOMO, but what's the fear? What are they actually fearing there? They don't know. And they end up massively overspending on components. And I see crazy builds all the time with like really weak GPUs that they've kind of forced themselves into because they overspent on their CPU, they overspent on their motherboard, they overspent on their cooler, they overspent on the case, on the SSD, when those components don't necessarily control performance. So I think those are some of the biggest ones that really hurt your performance. All right, Rocky wants to know, maybe a good Amazon Prime Day, should you buy now or should you wait question, can you start building a PC without every single part, like the SSD, the GPU, and the PSU? Well, the short answer here is I get where you're coming from. I think given the higher cost of computing that we're seeing this year than we've seen in previous years, a lot of people were like, hey, can I just kind of like buy a little bit now, buy a little bit later, as things go on sale? You certainly can, but let's talk about some of the challenges there. Number one, in order to get a functional PC, you need to have a CPU, a motherboard, you need to have the power supply, you probably need to have a PC case, although you could put it together on a cardboard box. You definitely need to have the RAM for it, and you need to have an SSD, and those are going to be the most expensive components except for the GPU. Now, some CPUs do have integrated graphics, so you could put it together and live off the integrated graphics until you save up for a GPU. I could certainly see that, like put together a Ryzen 7600X build, just integrated graphics without a lot of power to them, but you certainly could do it. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, especially given where we think GPU prices might go. That is one of the components I might be picking up over Amazon Prime Day. Basically, I think if you are looking at doing that instead, I would recommend dropping down a price tier instead. So yeah, I know everybody wants to build a DDR5 Ryzen 7000, 9000 series CPU PC build right now, but what if instead we built something that we can actually use? What if we took 12th gen i5, 12600KF for like $160 with a PSU deal like they've been offering at Newegg for a while, a cheap B660, B760 motherboard, 16 gigs or maybe 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM instead, upgraded that way. And that would give you a pretty decent little gaming PC. Similarly, the Ryzen 5500, or if you grabbed any of those B550 motherboard with 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM and an SSD deals, and you put a Ryzen 5600X on it, that's definitely a good enough gaming PC for like a 9060 XE for sure. If you got value out of this video, please do give it a like. Of course, subscribe for more cool PC content. Like, did you check out Original Look at Amazon Prime? We looked at things beyond just gaming PC parts. We looked at gaming monitors, OLED, laptops, everything else. Check it out right here. If you're thinking about buying anything else for Amazon Prime Day, check it out, and we'll catch you on the next one.